Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Kinash. This is my new series that I'm trying out that I'm going to do through YouTube called How to Try. For those that don't know me, I'm a co-founder of a business called Arrow AI. I'm also talking to you live from Kyiv in Ukraine right now, where I am a fundraiser and truck driver for the NAFO 69 Sniffing Brigade, alongside fundraising and helping out for other activities. And I created this series because I wanted to get together interesting people and useful people that have got a story to sort of help people through their lives. So it's about really how to try your best, what sort of things you might be able to do to be able to get through each day or just be the best that you can be. I think there's far too much content out there now, and certainly in the business world, too much use of the word high performance. And sometimes I don't think that's that relevant to most people. Some people just want to be happy. Some people just want to get through the day. Some people just, maybe can't perform at a high level on that day because of the world that they're in. And I think that's pretty relevant to, what we're facing over here in Ukraine at the moment. You know, just many, each day is just about not dying, be you a soldier on the front line or a civilian here in Kyiv getting attacked under no sleep. The concept of high performance is not one that's particularly relevant to people. So to kick off this series, I've invited along my colleague from ROI, who will happily introduce himself to you all because he's had a pretty cool life today.
Thanks very much, Alex. So yeah, on the theme of trying, I'll try my best to tell my story. So yeah, I've been in the sporting world for the last sort of 15 years or so, both as an athlete and working professional. Swimming was my craft, and I pursued that to a high level, or the highest level I could. Speaking of trying, I really did try as best I could to achieve my goals. I achieved most of them, but some fell short, and I have had to live with that and learn how to live with that. Along the way, I've been to Commonwealth Games, world events, educational background in performance psychology, and now throwing my hand in the ring with Alex at ROAI and other similar bodies. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey to this point so far.
Thank you. And if anyone missed it, his name's Jack Thorpe as well. And like he said, he is working with me. So the poor man has to put up with some fairly serious pain each day. So he has to try his best not to punch me. And Jack, I just want to say you got a beautiful beard there. Beautiful.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the beard game wasn't so useful in the swimming. It's definitely come on a little bit since, but it's no, I think that's part of it. It's kind of along that don't want to say the warrior spirit, but I always felt like the beard was a bit of a symbol of, during the season I would grow it out and have that sort of rugged look, and then towards sort of major meets, kind of take it off and strip back, and yeah, it's just a bit of a fun thing along the side. But no, it's a staple.
So you were an elite swimmer then, is that a fair phrase? Like,
Yeah, no, I was an elite swimmer. I mean, I made it to high level, and without doing myself an injustice, I did make teams and performed at a high level internationally. I was a national record holder for I think 6 years running. Defended that record. It was in the 50 freestyle, so that's just the splash and dash one length. I'd like to compare myself to the Usain Bolt sprints of this world, but not quite. It's that sort of equivalent in the pool, sort of one and done. But yeah, it's very much of that. You've really got to be on it. There's no room for error, no margin for error. But yeah, I achieved a lot of my goals, maybe exceeded expectations from an earlier age. But along the theme of trying, I think it was difficult. I never quite got to that Olympic level. I was more than capable, but the stars never aligned for me. 2012, I was maybe a bit too young. 2016, illness and injury. And 2020 was probably my time to go for it, but we all know what happened in and around that period. And yeah, it just didn't happen for me. So I had to accept that for what it was.
and because I've obviously, everyone on the screen can see that I have the physique of an elite athlete, but like I'm going to pretend now that, I have no idea what it actually takes to even swim at the level that you achieved at. What actually is, when you were swimming, what is your trying your best or trying? Give someone an ideal or an example of what your day and week would be like.
Yeah, totally. So, all the way from sort of 9, 10 years old to 12, and then right the way up into my mid 20s, it was all about that consistency of a lot of sessions in a week, sort of 8, 9 pool sessions, several gym sessions, early mornings, 4 or 5 in the morning, evenings. But I think something consistently along the side of it, and is key for this, is I always had something else, whether it was school, university, professional work. Swimming is one of those sports where it's not professional. There isn't enough financial support in the sport unless you're at the very, very, very top end to justify. So I've always had a very busy timetable, applying it both to my sport and then, just everything else that I had to do alongside it. So I really had to learn how to, I used to say juggle a lot of balls or spin a lot of plates. It's very much that balancing act of keeping a lot going and having that mental capacity that I learned the hard way to kind of switch on and off in different aspects of my life. So it's been a real learning process for sure. And like I said, there's been plenty of sort of low points along the way that I've learned from.
Can you give me an example of one of them?
Oh, for sure. So I think the biggest one that I mentioned earlier was kind of the 2016 era Olympic sort of qualification period, the sort of 2 years, including sort of 2016 and 17, I got injured. It's a freak accident, dropped a knife on my foot. It was in my kitchen, severed a tendon in my foot. Just one of these incidents, and then it obviously put me out of the sport for several months. Had to get an operation, and the timing was awful with all of that. So I was in a cast, and looking at my competitors go to the event, and it was a real turning point though, because it could have been the end of my career in a lot of ways, because it puts you out of the sport. I mean, there was pressure at home to, maybe it's time to hang up the goggles, do something else, finish off uni and crack on with the work in life. But I used it as a kind of pause and pivot and thought, well, I need some purpose here and I think I can do something. And that's exactly what I did. So I kind of flipped it, reframed that situation and absolutely went for it. And it ended up being into that 2017 period, the fastest I'd ever been. And, British medalist, broke national records. And then that was really my kind of turning point in my career. So it's one of those where it was a huge sort of challenge and negative, but then it became, well, a real catalyst for the second half of my career.
So just so I'm clear, you had done lots of training every day. Like you said, you had to have consistency. You were then going to potentially qualify for the Olympics, but decided to stab yourself in the foot with a kitchen knife. And then I'm going to fill in that gap in the middle in a second. But then actually after that period, you managed to then perform even better than you were before. I'm interested because obviously you're Scottish, right? And so
Yes.
there was clearly a period when you stabbed yourself in the foot where you had the option to become perhaps and go down the wrong path and become like a Glaswegian alcoholic or something along those lines. So, was there this moment where you were like, I don't want to be an athlete anymore. This has really done me in. Like, did that happen? And how did you stop yourself just giving up?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is the question, I think, and it's a brilliant question because there was some major, major low points in that time. I mean, an injury like that in your lower body. I mean, it was a major tendon was cut, and I'd lost a huge amount of weight. You get ill with it. There's all sorts of repercussions that come off it. So I had some pretty dark moments of what am I doing? Like, what have I been bothering? Spending like sort of 5, 6, 7 years of my life pursuing this. And it was a real mental battle to kind of get around that and justify not only to myself, but family, friends. There's a lot of question and naysayers saying like, why are you bothering? And I think the biggest thing that got me through it was sort of the little and often approach to things. It's kind of how I've got through tough periods, but also applied consistency to everything. If we're saying like trying your best, the best is all you can do. But I think one of my earlier coaches summed it up perfectly. He said you need to look at it day by day. And in your head, if you're thinking, I'm lying in bed, I'm out the game. Of course, there's dark times when you turn to things you shouldn't and people that you shouldn't perhaps as well. And like you say, you can go down a dark path. But if you look at it day by day and don't let that overarching, what am I doing next month, next year? And I think that really got me through it because just if you look at it day by day and a little and often, even if you do something, it's better than nothing. And I think that, like I said, was the way I kind of really reframed what I was doing and got my head in a decent place, and then it just slowly built on that gradually, and yeah, into the following months that proceeded.
I like that mindset. I think that, sometimes we can get so fixated on some massive mega goal, right? I want to win a gold medal, or, let's make sure we win this war. That actually that is so big and so far away that we start to never feel like we can get there. And so that's why I sort of wanted to do this series, that actually, if you just do something each day, life can be better and you can have an impact. So I'll give you an example that, at the last handover of vehicles that we delivered here in Ukraine, there was a soldier, and he was asked questions around, what do you think about for your future? Do you want to live in Ukraine in the future? And he was just like, I don't think about that, because that's not going to help what I'm doing today. All I need to be focusing on is the operation or the battle I'm going into tomorrow. Because if I start thinking about other things, sometimes I can get completely distracted from the reality of today. And, when you're in certainly a life and death situation, that's quite important, right? You want to be focused on what's in front of you. And I think we can live in a world now, especially with digital content everywhere, and look at other people's amazing lives and dream about them, that we can actually stop and doing our own lives and actually doing something each day.
Yeah.
Um, does that resonate with you as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love the expression, and I'm not going to try and attempt to coin it. It's one of those that just gets passed along, but comparison is the thief of joy. And comparison is deconstructive and can be damaging. If you're constantly looking at what other people are doing, oh, they're at this stage, or they're doing that, or it's not helpful, and it can really be destructive. So I think focusing on, I'm going to use a bit of, excuse the pun, focus on your own lane, focus on your own, what you're doing day by day. If you just focus on those little things, it really does add up. And I think for me, that's the most powerful thing about just focusing on the here and now, because it can be overwhelming. That long-term pursuit of something can be massively overwhelming. So just, what you're doing here and now, what's the goal today? What are the tasks that need to be done today? And I think just another really thing that I thought was powerful was just, just having a little list, a to-do list. It sounds so simple. Just what am I ticking off today? That in itself has been so useful for me to apply, and it's such a simple thing, but it keeps you in the present, I think, more than anything.
Have you ever had periods as well where, like, you've had sort of bad sleep for a while? So, take out here at the moment in Ukraine, sleep is a, a rare commodity for quite a few people, and so in that instance, have you got any tips, or how would you handle that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, sleep over the years has definitely been a nemesis for sure, because it's, really people get on at you and say, sleep, sleep, it's the cornerstone. And we all know like sleep is super important, but it can be really difficult to get sleep, to get good sleep. And, I'm always a thinker. I'm an overthinker. I let things kind of manifest, and I'll sit and, it's that classic when you're during the day, it's fine. And then you get lie in bed at night, and then you think about, oh, what was that thing I did 5 years ago? Or what am I going to be doing next year? And it's just your brain goes all over the place. So I've really gone down some rabbit holes of what you can do and how to help. And it's simple stuff like banking sleep, I think, is a really big one for me. Like the power of the nap, the power of just sort of wakeful rest, as you call it. Just because you can't sleep doesn't mean your body isn't resting. And it's acknowledging that, it can be counterproductive when you get really frustrated with sleep and it's like, oh, I can't get to sleep. Well, it's like, well, just lie there and close your eyes, focus on your breathing. I do that, if I'm prepping for some meet when back in the day, or even, if I've got own demons in my head or stuff that I'm struggling with. And even now, we've got nothing to do with sport anymore. It's just saying, right, don't look at the clock. Don't keep looking at your phone or so what time is it or what's going on outside. It's just, count in your head, focus on the breathing. And I think the banking sleep for me as well, even if it's, you might get 3 hours of sleep at night, but then you can top up through the day, get a wee 20-minute nap here, a wee 10-minute nap here, even if you're just sitting in a room by yourself and just relaxing, if you can find those little windows, those really add up.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I've uh, I've been doing that a bit here, to be honest. Like, where sleep has been not something that's happened throughout the whole day. I have taken some little naps. In fact, I'm working from this place called Lift 99 here in Kyiv, which is a super cool sort of tech startup hub, and it has a sleep room. Right, that actually can enable people to go to sleep, which I think is something that you're seeing more and more in companies now, where there is a bit more of a proactive push to provide facilities to look after people's body and mind better. And I don't know, just on that basis, on the body and the mind, what for you is the most important thing that you do to keep your body okay?
Yeah, well, I mean, the cornerstones for me, obviously sleep is part of it. Then you've got kind of nutrition, movement, light, and social. And I'm going to break down those a little bit. I mean, nutrition and sleep, you can kind of make sense of that, get what sleep you can, and nutrition, quality stuff. Movement, bit of exercise, even if it's walking, just moving your body around. But light is a really big one. If you can link into the sun, go outside first thing, try and expose yourself to the sun, even if it's cloudy. Then in the evening, remove light, blue light sources, any stuff that could distract you. We're all yeah, exactly on the mobiles, on the email. It's a real issue if you can shut that off an hour before. But social side as well is a really important one. Just talking to folk, it's that sense of belonging, that purpose. If you've got stuff that you might be thinking about, rather than, going to bed or going into your own internal thoughts and just manifesting, just getting it out and talking with someone. It could be anyone. You're having a coffee, you're having a beer, you're out on a walk, or you're just, sitting in a group, just talking. That social element can be so powerful because I think everyone understands, like, yes, you're meant to get enough sleep, but then I always question it's not necessarily about volume, but it's quality of sleep. You can have less sleep, but it can be a bit more higher quality. That's a factor. It's not always about how much sleep. And then nutrition side again, I think we understand that, but that social dynamic, I think, maybe gets forgotten about a little bit at times.
Is it fair that because it can be a luxury to have friends, right? Physical friends. I mean, not everyone can go out and see a friend or walk in a park with a friend. Some people might not have any friends in the in the actual tangible world, so they could
Mm-hmm.
still potentially have friends in a digital community as well, couldn't they? People that they relate
Oh,
to.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm fortunate at my job and, within Arrow and other groups that I've worked with that, people come up with all sorts of creative outlets for socializing. And there's plenty of folk that, game. They'll be on a PlayStation or Xbox or just on a WhatsApp group, or they'll be just chatting. And that is that social outlet. That's people don't realize it. Some people identify it, but others don't even necessarily think about it. And like, oh, actually, yeah, that is a social element. And like you said, you need to work with what you've got. And not everyone likes to go out and chat and meet people. And there's plenty of other creative ways. And I think the world we live in now, it's globalized and there's all these opportunities. So that's definitely a huge factor. And I think moving forward, leaning into those opportunities.
So, look, I'm going to ask you, as because this is all about how to try. So, you've come across as someone that has tried to do stuff, and you've achieved through doing that, and then had some knockbacks. But if there are people out there that feel like they're not doing what they want at the moment, or that they're struggling to even get started to begin to feel a purpose or happy in themselves. What simple steps or things would you suggest they start doing to start to feel like they're trying each day and at least giving life a go in a different way that makes them happier?
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, it comes down to your vision. What are you looking at in the longer term? People get a bit overwhelmed with where they need to be in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, even next month. And I always kind of think in my own head, well, you don't necessarily know where you're going to be in 5 years, but do you know where you're going to be tomorrow? Do you know where you're going to be next week? There's again, I like these sort of analogies, but you can't see your way through the woods. You have no idea how to get out. There is a way out, but you don't know the exact route and it's overwhelming and there's trees everywhere, but can you see your next step? And it's like, well, yeah, I can see my next step or I can see the next tree, I can see the next bush. I can just sort of gradually make my way through and find my own path and direction. I think that in itself, it comes back to don't compare yourself to other people. We're all in our own world where we need to be in this given moment. And I think it's just understanding that we all go through life at a different pace. And this is again, I'm trying to practice what I preach here. I'm not perfect at any of this stuff, but I really am trying to kind of understand, how do you manifest your vision? And if you can't see the longer term one, just look at the short term. And that's where that little and often really comes back for me. Like it's been a hugely powerful thing, that day by day mentality.
How old are you now?
29.
You're 29, right? So, and I'm 38, and I still haven't got a clue what I want to do. And every day or every week, month, and year, I'm always evaluating who I am and am I happy, and what I want to do changes as well. I find, I don't think life is easy, and actually, I think it gets harder. But the things that I've started to do, certainly as I've got older, but obviously much more beautiful and well built, as everyone can see. Certainly I've been working out hard. Is that I don't care what anyone else thinks about me. I really genuinely do not care, unless I've been horrible to people, which I don't really, I don't think, but I'm not judging me against anyone else. I'm fairly comfortable with who I am and all of my failings, which there are a significant list of them, that's ever growing. But you just need to, for me, the big thing to life was, if I wake up tomorrow, am I doing something that I want to be doing? And when the answer to that has been no, I've stopped doing it, even though that has had a massive impact on my life. Like, i.e., I used to earn a job getting paid a lot of money, and I just walked out, because it's, for me, pointless. It doesn't, that having stuff, for example, tangible things, doesn't give me satisfaction. For me, having a purpose around helping people, like we're going to do in our startup, or like I do here in Ukraine, is actually what I enjoy doing. And I think that's probably my biggest single takeaway to people, is just sort of figure out what it is that really gives you internal happiness, and just do that.
Oh, totally. I mean, I think that, that wisdom, we grow with age, you've got, wisdom in your eyes, I think, there with your outlet on, or a sort of outlook on things. And it's that purpose, I think, finding your vision and that consistent pursuit of purpose. For me, it's just, what are you doing and is it meaningful? And it's like you said, it's a brave thing to take a step out and stop a job, or to really lean into what you think is important to you. And yeah, again, it's not comparing yourself to other people, and just looking at, looking almost like yourself in the mirror, like what is it that I'm doing, what I want to be doing, and how is it I need to get there. You might not know the end goal or that vision way down the line, but you can do things on a day by day basis or week by week that are purposeful, meaningful to you, useful to yourself and others around you. And yeah, so it's a real learning process to kind of work that out.
I mean, I look at myself in the mirror, but they all seem to crack and break. So I don't know what's going on. I think I'm like haunted or something, man. Like, it's not a good look. But so like I mean, we're gonna wrap up fairly soon, because I don't want to drone on for ages, and you need to go and trim your beard, I think. But um, do you do anything specifically, right? Actual specific techniques or things to help your mind? I'm interested in that, right? Like, and be it like mindfulness, or go out and meditate, or whatever it might be. Is there anything, that Jack Thorpe does or has done that really helped up here and fixed it, even if it was temporarily?
Yeah, oh, massive. I mean, they're pretty basic things, but I think they're pretty powerful. And I would say
Hmm.
it's breathing, walking, and music.
Okay,
And
so
those can
breathing.
all,
Explain that in a bit more detail. What do you mean by breathing? Because we all have to stay
yeah,
alive.
yeah. So totally. So it's what's called box breathing, is in a really simple term. It's basically, just thinking about breathing around the shape of a box. But the real focus it's just something to visualize. It's all about breathing in for a short amount of time. You're breathing out. You breathe out longer than you are breathing in, and it grounds you, lowers your heart rate, keeps you in the moment. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, I might just literally sit back at my desk, sit where I am, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And it is such a simple thing. And I know people say, oh, breathing, but just that simple in and out can actually be so, so powerful. You know, a few repetitions of that are actually major. That's been really, really beneficial for me. And again, you know, we talked about sleep. That can actually really help if my heart rate's all over the place or if I'm distracted, just focus on the breathing, you know, long inhale, but longer exhale. You know, that really slows your heart rate. And then the walking and the music are quite often combine. Depends what mood I'm in, to be fair, but sometimes walking with no music, just literally outside anywhere. It can be or in the street, just find a bit of green space, literally among trees. I'm fortunate where I'm in Scotland, Edinburgh, that there's a park nearby. Just go and wander and look at Arthur's Seat, look at a tree. I mean, it is literally so basic, but it's just being outside and music. Music is super, super powerful. I think, you know, you can find all sorts of mood specific songs. I mean, I've really experimented over the years with what sort of song, what sort of playlist or album works for me in any given moment. And it's been a
Yeah.
real experimenting process, but I think it's hugely powerful. I know it's hugely powerful to enhance your mood.
Hush, yeah. I couldn't agree more with you, Jack. I think that sort of breathe in through your nose and slowly out through your mouth has certainly been a technique that I was taught quite a while ago, and I've used throughout my life to de-stress me when I've found myself getting quite frustrated. And I've been through some fairly traumatic things and seen them, and music and certain songs can absolutely fix it instantly for me. So if something's about to trigger and make me start crying, then I can put on a certain track and it can bring me back to smiling and be happy within seconds of that track starting. Very powerful.
No,
Um,
definitely. And there's actually one more thing that I think is actually useful.
yeah.
And it's a little bit of an abstract one, but I think people will get it, is think about your thoughts as a conveyor belt at an airport. So this is a bit
Okay.
of a funny one, but it'll make sense when I say it. This is for
Go on.
me, because again, I spoke about some challenges, again, past demons, family stuff. We've all got stuff that comes up in our head.
Hmm.
And speaking to professionals in the field, you know, psychs and other, you know, psychologists and other people, it's a technique of just acknowledging a thought and letting it pass you by. It's almost like your conveyor belt of thoughts. You know, they might go round, and you know, if you're standing there in an airport, we've all experienced, or most of us sitting waiting for a bag, standing group of people, the thought might be picked up. Someone might take it and walk away with it. It might come back around. You might see it a few more times, but eventually the conveyor belt, you know, it'll calm down. It's really busy initially, then it'll calm down. There's a few things, and then you'd learn, oh yeah, there's that thought again. It'll pass by. It's fine. The conveyor belt might stop for a bit, you know. Then you're stuck with a thought for a while, but you know, just let it pass over. And that in itself has been massively powerful for me because again, you just transfix. You can just become obsessed with a thought, a memory, a future thing, but just let it pass you by. That's again, it's worth giving a try, I think.
Jack, I think that is a wonderful, wonderful tip to give with a clear explanation of why and how it can help that we can end this first series of How to Try. Um, Jack Thorpe, Scottish swimmer, member of our ROI business, and an all-round bearded legend. I thank you very much for putting up and suffering my company. Yeah, I appreciate that that is an endurance test in its own right, and you'll be having to use that elevator of thoughts for quite some time to recover. But I hope everyone found this interesting or broadly useful. If not, you can provide feedbacks in the comments as to why it wasn't, and maybe we can improve it in the future. But Jack, thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. It was a privilege, and yeah, it's great to chat. And yeah, speaking of trying, we tried our best, and let's hope it's been of use and someone's taken away something from it. And yeah, here's to the future of the podcast.
Yeah, let's see how it goes, mate. And you're absolutely right. We tried and we tried our best. And if it wasn't good enough for the viewers, then, hopefully we can make it better in the future. But thank you very much. I've been Alex Kanash, and I will see you beautiful people very soon with some other guests, as long as the feedback was at least average. Thank you.
Nice one. Cheers.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.